Hello and welcome back. It is Monday. I am Mr. Sosatris, and this week I wanted to talk about de-influencing your reading. So I love seeing how reading has morphed beyond just kind of a thing that individuals do here and there and has really become something bigger than itself. It almost feels like the online book community is just one giant book club that's just endlessly going, and it's a ton of fun. I love seeing that more people are reading than they have before. People are being introduced to indie authors they weren't aware of before. People are reading more diversely, and it's overall a really great thing. But with all social media, communities, trends, that kind of thing, there's always the risk that the individual people that are a part of it can sometimes feel overwhelmed. There's, talk of like endless TBRs that are never going to be completed, reading goals that feel unrealistic, and it's just everyone feels like they're being pressured to just go, 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 read everything as fast as they can, read as many books as they possibly can. And it feels like for some people it's kind of becoming a bit much. So in this video, I have 5 tips to kind of help you de-influence your reading and take a step back from kind of the chaos of the online book community and to find a way to connect with reading in a way that makes it fun again. Now, obviously, these aren't going to apply to everybody. Everyone's different. Everyone's into different things. But these are just some things that I thought of that are relevant to sort of how I've helped myself kind of step back a bit, and hopefully they help others. If they don't, that's fine, but we'll throw this out there just in case. All right, so the first one is to lower your reading goal. And I know this sounds anathema, but there shouldn't be a race to a specific number. Now, if you're wanting to read more and you feel like you're not making time to read, a reading goal can be a really great way to sort of push you to read a little bit more, to find more time in your daily schedule, to fit more reading in. That's great. That's totally fine. But for a lot of us, the reading goal has just become kind of a normal thing. Everyone sets their reading goal for the beginning of the year, and then they try to hit it by the end of the year. And for a lot of people, the reading goal has just become a goal in and of itself and not something that's serving a purpose. And so when you pressure yourself to read a ton of books, you could be missing out on some things. Maybe you're not reading longer books like you used to. Maybe you're forcing yourself to read shorter books so you could fit more things onto that huge reading goal that you have. And that's not fun. It becomes just a job as opposed to something that you do for fun. Last year I read 85 books. I actually did meet my goal, but it wasn't as fun. Like, I did read lots of great stuff, but I always felt kind of this anxiety throughout the year of like racing to meet this goal. And by the end of it, I started reading like shorter and shorter books in December to kind of cram into my reading schedule, just to force myself to read, like to get that goal. But it didn't really enhance my reading experience in any way. And so this year I've cut it way back. I'm going to just read kind of at my own pace. I'm going to read more long books and not feel pressured to meet that like numerical reading goal. The people who read like 200 books a year, they're not lying or making things up. Don't believe that. But a lot of those folks, sometimes they have different schedules. Maybe they don't have a commute because they work from home. Maybe they have more time during the day that they can set aside to read. Maybe they prefer to read a combination of novels and like novellas and poetry books. Those are shorter. Maybe they prefer graphic novels, which you can get through a little bit faster. So everyone's reading habits are different. So don't compare yourself to the people who read 200 books and say, oh, I only read 85 books. I must be really slow, or I must be a bad reader. And that's not true. I read all the time. I have 3 books on the go at any given time. I have an audiobook that I listen to throughout the week. I have like a physical book that I usually read like on the bus on my way to work. And then I have an ebook that I read before bed. So there's like set times during the day, and I'm constantly reading, but I don't get through as many as some of these other people, but that's okay because that's a pace that works for me. Next up, number 2 is use the library more. And I know that this is kind of it's a cliche at this point because libraries are really popular, and we want people to read the library more, especially now that we have things like Libby and the ability to check out library books on your e-reader. Like, it's really easy to work with the library. You don't have to deal with late fees, all that kind of stuff. It's great. Besides the fact that libraries are amazing and you should support them more because they're kind of one of the few like free public spaces where you can have fun and enjoy things and consume a product without having to be expected to pay for it, because it's usually paid for by the government. And so we want libraries to stay around. Libraries are really important. They help people job hunt who are maybe unhoused, or who don't have a computer at home. They give single mothers a chance to take their kids somewhere where they can run off their energy and play with toys and read and stuff. So like, libraries are really, really important. There's a ton of people who use them, and we should support them. But this isn't just that. Often in the book space, there's this pressure to like purchase, and there's also this kind of back and forth between like reading books and collecting books. You know, people will say like they're two separate hobbies, and I totally understand that. I am a collector. I love collecting things. If I start collecting a series, I won't rest until I've found kind of everything in that series. So I understand it. I'm a collector. I'm not saying don't collect, but find ways to just enjoy books in a way that doesn't require you to like spend a ton of money. So, you know, maybe pause your Audible subscription for a bit and use Libby for audiobooks for a bit, which is, you know, totally fine. Or maybe, you know, make a pact with yourself to maybe, you know, read every other book from the library instead of, you know, something that you've purchased. And all this is just to kind of get us away from that kind of consumerist loop where you're constantly purchasing and collecting things because you feel like you're not doing it right unless you're buying new books. And unless you have those big, gorgeous bookshelves with like the lines of pristine hardbacks with sprayed edges. Those are so pretty. I do love that whole vibe. But not everyone can afford that. Not everyone can make that work. And that's fine. The purpose of reading is to read and enjoy books and not be so concerned with sort of the materialistic side of it, where it's all about buying books so you can show off your fancy shelves and, you know, make people feel guilty for not having as many books as you. That's not the point. I love collecting, and I have a ton of books that I've got specifically because, you know, I had read the book before and I loved it, and I found like a gorgeous hardcover of that. So like, I'm not trying to be a hypocrite here, but you know, used bookstores are your best friend. You can find lots of great stuff there. Don't feel like if the book isn't brand new and shining and sparkling, then it's not like worth going on your shelf. You know, the important thing is that you're reading. So, you know, use the library more. Used bookstores are great. There's also like lots of podcasts that will offer free like readings or book reviews of like short stories, or that will talk about you know, new and upcoming books, you know, that kind of stuff. LeVar Burton Reads is a really great podcast. He just reads like short stories from all kinds of authors, and it's a great way to sort of, you know, have something to listen to while you're, you know, if you don't have an audiobook on cue, but it's totally free and you're still being exposed to tons of new authors in a way that doesn't cost you anything. So, you know, think about that. You don't need to just frantically buy everything. It's okay. The next one, number 3, is to write more honest reviews. This comes up on book circles quite frequently, where people will say, you know, don't write 1 or 2 star reviews because they're mean to the author. And anything less than a 5-star review is bad. None of that's true. Reviews exist for a reason. People read book reviews so that they can say, is this something I'd be interested in reading, or does it not seem like it would appeal to me? And when people read your reviews, it makes them want to go out and buy books. And so if you're making nothing but like positive, glowing reviews of everything, you're encouraging people to buy things that maybe they're not getting the full picture on. Like sometimes if you read something and you had a good time with it, you're like, this is fine, and it was a good solid like 3 out of 5. You know, it's one of those ones where you enjoyed the reading, but you probably won't read it again, but you had a good time. And if you then feel pressured to make like a 5-star review of that and say it was incredible, it was amazing, everyone needs to read this, then you're not giving people the real information that they need to make a decision. Reviews are best when you embrace the fact that they're subjective. So if you say, you know, there was things about this book that I loved, there's things about this book I didn't like, overall, for me personally, I maybe didn't enjoy this very much. You can say that, and that's okay. When all you see are glowing reviews of like, you have to buy this, you have to buy this, you have to buy this, it just turns everyone's social media feeds into just sort of endless advertising saying you have to buy this, you have to buy this. And for one, that can be really fatiguing, and for others it can really like compel them to spend money on books that maybe they wouldn't really be super interested in. So write honest reviews. Don't encourage people to just buy everything because you don't want to be mean. I'm a people pleaser. I totally understand. It can be really difficult if someone suggests a book to you, or if an author that you love writes a book and you really want to, like, you have a sense of loyalty to them, so you really want to give them a really good review because you love the author or you love the person who recommended it. But if you're just adding to this deluge of like 5-star reviews, buy this, 5-star reviews, buy this, then you're just contributing to that kind of materialistic kind of onslaught, and that can be really fatiguing for a lot of people. So if you give an honest review, that's fine. A 5-star review is like a book that was outstanding, it blew your mind, it was one of your favorite reads of the year, you just loved it. A 3-star review is something you enjoyed but probably won't read again. A 1-star review is something that just was filled with sort of lots of offensive stuff that just didn't work for you, and you didn't have a good time reading it. And try to be subjective with your reviews. You're allowed to say, I personally didn't enjoy this. There's been really popular books that I've read that everyone gave really good reviews, and I read it, and I think I just read it in like the wrong format. You know, I borrowed it from Libby, and I listened to it, and maybe I wasn't in the mood for an audiobook of that particular kind, and so it just didn't work for me, and I made it through to the end, but I just didn't have a good time reading it. But, you know, that's more on, it wasn't the right time to read this book, maybe I didn't read it in the right format, so be aware of this. There was things that I liked, things I didn't like. You know, let the reader make their own decision. You're not an advertisement that's trying to get people to buy things to support every author. You cannot realistically keep every single author's careers afloat by just sheer force of will. Read what you love, be honest about what you're reading, and let other people make informed decisions about what they want to read. Speaking of reviews, number 4 is you don't need to review every single book you read. Sometimes there's this pressure to like review every single thing. I have a book talk account, and I usually make a quick video about most everything that I read, but every now and then there's times when I'm like, I don't really have anything meaningful to say about this. I'm just not going to do a review on this one. Maybe it's something that you read just to fill up time. Maybe it's something that you read that it just didn't grab you in any way, but you didn't necessarily hate it. It was kind of meh. You are not like a machine that's designed to just churn out content constantly. So you don't have to review every single book that you read. There's times when all of us feel like we're in this like perpetual unpaid internship that's filled with, you know, word counts and deadlines, and we're just constantly having to write reviews, and it just becomes less fun than the actual reading. So, you know, if reviews are stressing you out and you feel like, oh, I haven't reviewed the last 2 books I've read, just review the books that speak to you. Review the books that you have something to say about. Review the books that kind of encourage discussion or debate or something. But don't feel like you have to review every single book, because if that becomes overwhelming, then it just takes the fun away from things, and you don't want to do that. Reading is supposed to be fun. Number 5 is kind of an extension of number 4, and that is cut down on the number of apps that you use. There are tons of apps that everyone uses for their book tracking, book reviews, book recommendations, all that kind of stuff. There is a lot. And it can be really easy to fall into this thing where when you finish a book, there's like this long list of things you need to do. You need to go on Storygraph and update your review. You need to go on Goodreads and update your review. You need to take a picture of your book that's really aesthetically pleasing so you can put it on Instagram. You need to do a review for TikTok. And since those are really long, you tend to like shorten the video and repost it on Instagram or on YouTube, and there's this kind of pressure to just like every time you finish it, there's like this list of content that you have to create, and some people really enjoy this part of it, but for others it can become kind of a burden. Like when your whole reading existence is just churning out massive amounts of like unpaid content, it can really be draining, and that's not fun. So focus on like the things that you want to do. I know I usually will do like a short video on TikTok for most of my books. I'll do like a quick review, and I'll post a review on Storygraph. I don't really use Goodreads anymore, and I won't even write out a full review on Storygraph unless I really, really want to write a review, because otherwise if I wrote a full review on every single book, it would be too much. And so you don't have to just be a content creating machine. There are people who do this full time and they get paid for it. And so of course they'll have time to be able to write really good reviews and do lots of videos and make lots of content, because that's kind of their job, is to make content about the things they read. And I know a lot of us kind of look at that sort of influencer life and really want to embrace that, but you're not getting paid for it, and so you don't need to just have your face out there everywhere. I mean, unless you're trying to get to a point where you can monetize things, that's fine. But if you just enjoy reading, and it stresses you out every time you finish a book, you're like, oh, I have to do this, that, and that. Don't feel pressured to just create all this free content. You're not like a human billboard. The book talk world and the booktube world sometimes has a tendency to turn people into just like billboards that just blare free advertising for companies, and there's something kind of soulless about that. If you enjoy making reviews and you enjoy taking pictures and everything, that's 100% fine. Lots of people really enjoy that. But if you feel obligated to do it and it just isn't fun, then you don't have to do that. Focus on sort of the things that you enjoy about reading. Some people just read books and they never update any apps. They just read them and then they go on to their next book. So you can do that too. But I know the world of book talk and booktube are really exciting and really compelling, and it seems like that's kind of where everyone is and that's where all the action is. So there is this pressure to sort of have yourself out there everywhere, you know, posting reviews and making content, and then hopefully getting, you know, to the point where you can do it full time and you get paid for it. And some people can make that work and some don't, and that's fine. Everyone's in a different place. But if any of this ever feels overwhelming or stressful, it's okay to just let things be and just focus on sort of what you can, because I keep saying this, the end goal is just to enjoy reading. It's not to convince everyone in the whole world to read everything that you personally enjoy. It's just enjoy reading. And you can share recommendations, you can share reviews, but don't let it become a point where it's draining you and it's making you feel like you're not doing enough. If you feel like you're not reading enough, you're not creating enough content, you're not writing enough reviews, that's just this kind of like grind wheel or grindstone of social media that's always like, you know, you're only of value if you're getting lots of likes and you're getting lots of subscribers. And for some people that can be really damaging, and it can really hurt people's sense of self-worth, and you don't want to do that. So, have a healthy relationship with your online book experience, and do what makes you happy, and don't ever feel pressured to be anybody else, because all you can be is yourself. So with that said, I will let you go. I'll see you next week. Happy reading. Bye.